All right, we are live and all set to go.
All right, thank you, Jim. Welcome everyone to the Board of Selectmen Interview Subcommittee for March 29th, 2022. This is a remote meeting. This open meeting of the Board of Selectmen Interview Subcommittee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of June 16th, 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. All members of the interview committee are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows the interview committee to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Members of the public who wish to review the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. Each vote taken this evening will be conducted by a roll call vote. My name is Scott Rogers, and other members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Jason Perot.
Here.
And we also have Fran Backstrom, clerk of the current Zoning Board of Appeals.
Here.
Thank you, Fran. And then we have our host this evening, Jim, who started us off. We have, for this evening, we'll defer minutes. Those minutes were conducted by other members, so we'll do the review and approval of those at a future meeting. But what we'll have today is two applicants for the Zoning Board of Appeals. Our first applicant is Kevin Wirsch, and I guess, Jim, if you would bring Kevin in, please.
While we're in this transition, I just want to, for the record, normally the interview subcommittee consists of Scott Rogers and Leslie Rattan from the Board of Selectmen, and for this evening's interviews, because Ms. Rattan has a close association to a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals, she steps aside as she has done in the past, and I'm standing in as a substitute for the purpose of this interview tonight.
Thanks, Jason. And welcome, Kevin. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Scott. How are you?
Very good. So, Kevin, you have myself. I'm a member of the Board of Selectmen, Jason Perot as well. And then Fran Backstrom is clerk for the Zoning Board of Appeals. She's here not necessarily for the deliberation of the interviews, but to provide some background information on the ZBA and duties and responsibilities, and provide information for that. So to kick things off, if you would, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're applying for this position.
Sure. So nice to meet you all. Thanks for having me tonight. So my name's Kevin Wirsch. I've been a resident of Northborough for about 14 or 15 years now. It's been a great experience. I grew up in the area in Marlborough, Sudbury, and then moved to Northborough to start a family with my wife, about 14 years ago, as I said. I actually went to elementary school at the Oxford Academy, which later became the Z School. So I feel like I've had some roots in the town for a while. Professionally, I'm an architect. I've been with the same firm in Boston for just over 18 years now. I've been working on a variety of projects. We do mostly healthcare and academic work, but along that kind of or under that umbrella, we've done multiple out of the ground buildings, which have included interaction with Zoning Board of Appeals and other jurisdictions in and around the Boston area. So I've had some experience kind of in the world of from the owner / architect side, working with the ZBA or going through hearings and requesting special approvals and things like that for projects. So it's something that is definitely kind of part of my experience and something I find very interesting, the whole process of working through kind of local requirements and working with local jurisdictions to kind of develop projects and move things forward sort of for the benefit of everyone. And I think that's really one of the reasons I'm interested in joining a committee such as the ZBA, is just being able to, give back to the community that I live in, that I'm, raising my family in, just participate in things that I think are positive and exciting for the town, things that can benefit all of us and help grow Northborough or continue to grow Northborough. And then it's, sort of in my wheelhouse as being an architect, someone who's familiar with codes and zoning and, buildings and construction, all of that, sort of all underneath that umbrella. So hopefully that makes some sense, just as kind of an introduction.
No, that's great. And I guess at this point, Fran, if I could call on you just to provide a little bit of information on that, overview of the board and duties and responsibilities, just kind of set the and Kevin, this might be things you already know, given the interactions with ZBA, but it's good to have that overview.
Well, Kevin, so the Northborough Zoning Board of Appeals is a 5-member board with 2 alternate members. Like all the other ZBAs across the Commonwealth, we do have authority in Mass General Law when it relates to permit granting authority and appeals. We also do here in Northborough have, in addition to the statutory required dimensional variances, we do also have the authority for use variances. We meet monthly, sometimes, most often once a month. Some months there are no applications, so we may be 10 times a year. And the meetings are held on the 4th Tuesday of the month currently.
Okay, great.
Great, thanks, Fran.
Mhm.
So Kevin, I guess to dig a little deeper, some additional questions there. In your working with other ZBAs, what's your kind of understanding of the role of the zoning board of appeals?
Yeah, so I mean, I think quite simply, it is to apply the ordinances that exist in the local town's bylaws and make sure that those are being followed. And then obviously there are moments where someone is appealing to diverge from those requirements somewhat. And it then becomes the role of the ZBA to make a judgment if that type of, non-conformance is going to be allowed. Yeah. Does that sound right?
Good stuff there. And then given how Fran outlined the number of meetings and the time frame, you understand that time commitment and be able to meet those times and be able to make that commitment.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe this is a question, but I kind of assumed it was more than that even. Is there the ability or expectation to review things prior to those meetings and those hearings? So would there be additional, time where I can read about a case or understand things ahead of time? Or does it really just happen in that one evening a month?
Yeah, I'll let Frank, can you address that one?
Most of the boards, committees, and commissions, our packets are delivered to us, or we pick them up at town hall when they are stamped and available. So no, you would be able to, as an individual, look at anything and prepare for a meeting. You just can't deliberate and or
Right.
convene with the other members outside of the open meeting law.
Yep. Okay.
Mhm.
Oh yeah. So once a month in an evening is totally doable. Yep.
Excellent. And then in terms of, is there any particular kind of scenario time that you have offered, gone before zoning board of appeals, without getting into too much detail, but can you characterize some of the examples you've had in representing applicants in front of the ZBA?
Yeah, sure. Yes, as I mentioned, the firm I work for, I'm a principal there. So, my role is to, lead a team of 10 to 15 people working with clients of different types, primarily in the healthcare sector is where I work. And a lot of those projects have been community health centers where clients have, built projects which either are, medical related or senior housing related, or senior care related. Not so much, retail Burger Kings or something, but mainly things that are about helping the community. So those are the opportunities where I've been involved and had the ability to kind of present the projects, describe, details of the project, what its construction type is, where it's going to be sited, the benefits that it provides to the community, the program, how the community will benefit from the project, those kinds of moments I've had interacting with the ZBAs. And those have all been, very positive. I've been fortunate enough to be on the presenting projects that really are great assets to the community. So they've all gone pretty smoothly, honestly. They haven't been, trying to convince someone to put a sewage plant in or something, right? It's always been positive things. So they've been very easy, positive experiences. I can say that. Yep.
That's great. And then in terms of, specifics to Northborough, have you been able to, do research on our specific bylaws, preparation on some of the prior applicants or some of the things that have come up in terms of town meeting and whatnot?
A little bit. I haven't done a lot. I have sort of when a friend of ours mentioned this to us and to me a few months ago that there may be an opening. I was like, oh, I've been talking about that for a while, and it's something I'm interested in participating in. So I did take that opportunity to go, back onto the ZBA website and just sort of read through the minutes and some of the kind of cases from the last few months. So I did kind of skim through those. So I do sort of understand the way things seem to be deliberated and then voted on, and what's been passed and what hasn't been passed. But I'm not super familiar with it, no.
Okay. And then I don't know, have you attended a town meeting, or how many times have you attended town meeting over the years?
I really haven't attended many at all. I think there was one meeting I went to like 10 years ago about some school related things, but that was about it.
Okay, because the follow-up question would have been, was there any particular, town meeting kind of bylaw topic or anything that stood out or was of interest to you in terms of, zoning and the outcome of that? And so do you recall for the one you did attend, was there any zoning related issue that
it was not a zoning related thing? No, it was about voting on having the school system start to integrate kindergarten as a paid element into the school system. So we just had our kids starting in kindergarten and we're kind of interested in that. So I went to one of those hearings. That was it.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, thanks. Jason, additional questions from you, sir?
Just wondering, as part of the preparation, you mentioned going to the website or whatever. Have you spoken with any of the current members of the ZBA or any of the staff members in town who in the planning or building departments?
No. The most sort of insider information I have is, I read an article maybe a year ago that was on the patch or whatever, just about sort of this desire to have, some new folks potentially join the ZBA, and that it's, I think I'm a proponent generally in terms of committees and politics of having new people get involved every once in a while. I think at some point, if you've been sitting on a board for, too many years, things get a little stale, and it's nice having kind of a fresh set of eyes joining things and kind of, allowing everyone to grow and evolve together. So I mean, that's really the only piece I know in terms of what's going on with the ZBA historically.
Great. And then Kevin, any questions you'd have for us?
I'm curious, if there are So I guess a couple questions. Can you just back, I know you introduced yourself at the beginning, but I'm on the ZBA website now and I see that none of you are members. Is that correct?
So at the interview and the appointments to the zoning
Yep.
board of appeals come from the board of selectmen. So Jason and I
Understood.
form interview subcommittee, if you will, from the board of selectmen. And so then those appointments, the interview subcommittee makes recommendations on appointments to the board, and then the board will vote on the appointment at an upcoming meeting.
I see. Okay. So you got it. Understood. And are there kind of what are the key criteria that you're looking for in this appointment?
Yeah, so it's a combination of experience and expertise, as well as for a permit granting authority. We like to see a progression of work with the town and build up some knowledge of what's really good, and there's not an opening in this cycle, but the alternate positions on the ZBAs are really good initial starting points for new members, right? And that works really well some of the other boards and committees that feed into or are related with the ZBA are great starting points for members as well. And we'll probably end this session towards the end. I usually make a comment about the openings that are across all the boards, committees, and commissions, because getting great applicants, we always get more applicants than there are, positions available, and so we really like to direct folks to those positions as well, if you're not selected.
Okay. And so is there an opening as an alternate in the ZBA right now? Or
At the moment, we have a regular member opening as well.
a regular member. Okay. Understood. Yep. Okay.
I'm sorry, what was that, Scott? I'm not sure I understood that.
We have just a regular member opening, this isn't for an alternate position, if I understand correctly.
Right. This is a regular member position with the incumbent and Kevin as the applicants for that seat. It's kind of cyclic. The 5 members are up for reappointment on a 3-year term. So you have, in this case, this year, just one of the 5 who's up for reappointment. In the successive 2 years, you'll have 2 each. And then the alternates are also filtered in there. Again, not this year, but in the next 2 years, I think each of the alternates will come up for reconsideration for reappointment, or if they choose not to continue, then that would be a vacancy in an alternate seat that would be available.
Okay. And the incumbent is running again or hasn't decided yet?
The incumbent has applied to be considered for reappointment.
I understood. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Well, I don't, obviously, as you can tell, I don't have a lot of experience in this exact role, but I think my, background and logic and straight sort of clear-headedness and ability to make good, sound judgment decisions are sort of strengths that I could leverage and, apply to this role. So hopefully you will consider me.
Excellent. Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate your time and your willingness to help with the town. And we'll end it here and move on to the next interview.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
You all. Have a good evening.
Good night.
And just checking our participants. I'm not seeing, Jim, do you see our next?
Yep, he's in
interview?
there. Would you like me to bring him in now?
Yes, please. And
Hello.
good evening, Mr. Rand.
Hey, Jason,
Hello, Mr. Rand.
Scott.
So thanks for making the time this evening. This portion is a discussion and an interview about your reappointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals. You indicated and applied to be reappointed. We'll start off, if you would, and for the benefit of the public and the record, give us a little introduction about yourself and what brings you to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Well, my name is Richard Rand. I've been living in town for approximately 45 years. About 20 years ago, there was an opening on the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I applied for it and became a member. I was interested in how the zoning applied to the town and how the zoning bylaws were handled in the town. And I met some of the nicest people in town. Bill Rostrom was the chairman, and he did a great job, and I learned a lot from him. And over the years, I've enjoyed working on the Zoning Board of Appeals, and it's been a great opportunity and a great learning experience.
Excellent. And what do you see as the role of the Zoning Board of Appeals?
The Zoning Board of Appeals does special permits and variances, and as outlined by the state Mass General Laws, Chapter 40, 40A, 40B, and we also do special permits according to our zoning bylaws. So that's basically what we do when we do appeals of decisions made by the building inspector.
Excellent. And then I guess normally I would have France, our representative from the ZBA talk about duties and responsibilities. I think the way to pivot on that question, you're aware of the duties and responsibilities and the time commitments. Any reservations in the ability to make those commitments?
I've made them for more than 20 years. I haven't had any problems making them. I've made most of the meetings. Once or twice I've been on a vacation when it was a scheduled meeting. Other than that, I've made 99% of the meetings that have occurred over the last 20 plus years.
Excellent. And then in terms of making the decisions, is there anything that stands out in terms of the knowledge and experience, things that need to be brought to bear in making the decisions?
I think there's a lot to be brought to bear. There's the zoning bylaws that are the Bible for our town's zoning, and then also the Massachusetts general laws that establish the Zoning Board of Appeals and the timeline that we have to follow to make decisions and have our decisions done. And then also court decisions that have come up in the last 15, 20 years, maybe 30 years, that outline specific things about the Zoning Board of Appeals. So all that is knowledge you gain over the years, and utilize it in each decision we make. And it's very important. It's very important that we make the correct decisions, for the neighborhoods, for the community in itself, and also for the applicant.
Excellent. And then in terms of, and I guess be careful if we need to be careful in certain specific cases, but in terms of zoning elements that have come up at town meeting, I assume you've been to town meeting quite often. Is there any particular item that of a zoning bylaws that kind of stands out to you as have been really important for Northborough or piqued your interest or concern in some way?
Well, I've been to every town meeting since I've been a resident in Northborough every year. And my attendance there is better than the Zoning Board of Appeals. It's 100%. And as far as articles, the most recent article is the current articles on the warrant for this year's town meeting, the article about removing the use variance from the authority of the Zoning Board of Appeals. And use variance is seldom used in town before the Zoning Board of Appeals, but when it is, it seems to be a very good reason for it if we go along with it. And typically, it's probably 50% of the time we do agree with the applicant, but it's only after a very thorough investigation of what it happens, what he wants to do, or what he or she wants to do, and how it will affect the neighborhood and the community at large. So, I mean, I think the use variance is one of the most important things that comes before our board, and it's an article in this year's warrant to do away with it. And I think it's a very important tool in the toolbox of the ZBA.
Thank you. Jason, any questions from you, sir?
Could you just speak about kind of like the collaboration of the members on the ZBA? In your experience, how has that played out in terms of, evaluating various applicants before you?
I think we have a broad range of experience on the Zoning Board of Appeals. Most of the members have been there several years or longer, and we have a couple new ones, and everybody participates in the meeting. Everybody brings their opinion to the table, and those various opinions help the whole board form the ultimate decision we make. And everybody's input is asked for, it's sought after, and because their perspective might be different than mine or other people on the board, it's very important, and it's very important to get all that information before the board so that we can make a decision that is right for the town.
Thank you.
An opportunity if you had any questions for us.
No, I don't have any questions. Thanks.
I think you know the role and probably as indicated, wish to continue in that role. So I think at this time, any other questions, Jason?
No, nothing more from me.
Okay, great. So thank you so much. We'll take a pause in this and let you get back to your evening.
Okay, so I'm all done.
All done, sir. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Good night.
All right. And then we would turn next to deliberation, right, Jason?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So let me go first. I mean, let me let you go first. That's
okay.
Yeah. So I tried to go through as many questions to cover elements that we saw, both on the applicants, on the applications provided, and some of the background information that was included in the application, as well as some common questions that help us get an understanding of the background and experience and perspective of the applicant. So I'll let you kick it off and
Sure.
get your reactions.
So we find ourselves in similar situation to last year, or even a couple of years before, when I also served in this position, where you have the incumbent seeking reappointment for the seat that he's held for some years, and you have a new applicant who has interest in serving, has certainly appropriate professional credentials and some experience in that setting. It's always a preference of mine to see someone who's coming forward for, I've said this before, there are some boards and committees in town where, it doesn't require much more other than time, energy, and interest to participate and constructively contribute. For certain boards, such as the ZBA, there is, much more complex matters before those boards, requires familiarity with the bylaws. Certainly, Mr. Wirsch, has professional qualifications that would suggest he would be capable in that circumstance. That said, I kind of do prefer to see a new applicant coming onto the ZBA do so in an alternate seat and develop some of that familiarity experience, and in doing that, kind of determine whether they want to continue serving on the board. Mr. Rand, in contrast, not that coming from the same professional background, but with his many years of service and experience on the ZBA, certainly has a very strong familiarity and has seen a broad variety of issues brought before the board. Very familiar with the bylaws. I think where I stand on this is that were it a vacancy that we were trying to fill, I would certainly regard Mr. Wirsch as a strong contender for that. But where we have a very experienced incumbent who's seeking reappointment, I would probably go with the incumbent, and in a manner of speaking, I guess I wish we had an alternate seat available this year, because I think that would be a perfect entry point for Mr. Wirsch to get that initial experience and interaction with the board, and kind of develop into a regular member. So that's the impression that I have.
Yeah, and I concur, and that's why I alluded to that alternate position while we were talking with Kevin, because I think that would be a great fit. I wish we had a vacancy with that as a great entry point. I do also have the preference for when an experienced member is looking to be reappointed and continue in that role. I also have that same view. Toward that end, what I hope is to see Mr. Wirsch, apply again when we have those positions open. Maybe even and if possible, turn to some of our other boards and committees and commissions openings there. I'll make sure I follow up with a list of those openings to him. But at this point, I would have I would make the recommendation to the larger board that we reappoint Mr. Rand to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
I would also say that people might not share this opinion, but my opinion is that I'd like to see people, particularly people seeking positions on these kinds of boards, to be more engaged in the regular town government process, such as town meeting, and have some presence there, or some familiarity with some of the issues, particularly if it's in zoning related matters. We typically have some number of zoning bylaw revisions that come through, and a member of the ZBA certainly would need to be aware of that, perhaps has opinions about it, so I guess I'd in part like to see more town engagement in that regard also.
Yeah, whether that's the attendance at town meeting, work on other boards and committees, engagement with staff. Those are the kind of areas that
Sure.
you want to see that.
And there certainly is a lot of opportunity. I mean, certainly to the extent that we continue to conduct meetings remotely and have them on recordings, it's a valuable resource for somebody who wishes to serve on the board to review those or attend those meetings and kind of follow in real time some of those particular applications as they go through the process, and also kind of get a sense of the other members of the board, how they operate, and what their standing is.
Yeah, I'm just to give a quick count of vacancies, just bringing that up right now. It shouldn't take too much time. About a dozen vacancies at the moment across different committees and boards. So that would be there's a great opportunity for folks that and I would put this out to anybody looking to volunteer their time for the town, a broad range of committees that could definitely need, could use your help. So appreciate anybody willing to apply on that. With that, unless there was any other comments, entertain a motion to make a recommendation.
I move that the Selectmen's Interview Subcommittee recommend to the Board of Selectmen the reappointment of Richard Rand to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a 3-year term to expire in April of 2025, I think it is.
Great, and I'll second that. And so to make it official, we've got to do a roll call vote. Jason?
Aye.
And Scott is also aye. So thank you for that. Fran, thanks for your participation this evening. It's always helpful to have a member of the existing committee or board explained, especially when we have a large number of applicants. Might have seemed a little odd tonight to just have the one to explain duties and responsibilities to, but we certainly appreciate your time this evening.
Not a problem. I thank you both for your service as well. Have a good night.
Great.
Good night, Frank.
And so I guess we need a motion to adjourn,
I move to adjourn.
and I will second that. So as a roll call vote, Jason,
Aye.